Hi, welcome back. Well, there are many well made documentaries, programs, and web channels about Korean history in English. You probably would like to listen to a story of how history molds an ordinary individual's life and how that person navigates through those changes, shaping her own value system. Here, you'll find an ordinary person's perspective through my voice and my channel. Today, I want to introduce a recent movie that evokes memories of the tragic military coup for many Koreans in the 1980s. It portrays the 9-hour period during which Chun Doo-han, a two-star general, coerced the president into approving the demotion of his senior, a four-star general, down to the rank of a private soldier. Back then, Korea was in political turmoil. The dictator named Park Chung-hee, who had ruled the country for 18 years, was assassinated by his aide during a midnight drinking party. A new figure emerged on the scene. His name is Chun Doo-han. He was the chief of the investigation team for the president's murder. Despite being a mere two-star general, his power grew stronger than anyone else's, as the entire nation was under martial law due to the president's sudden absence. He summoned politicians, conglomerate owners, social movement activists, and even religious leaders for what was termed cleaning up all the corruptions. He eventually seized the presidency after pressuring the acting president to resign. Chun Doo-han censored the press and media, ensuring that citizens remained unaware that he and the soldiers in his secret social club of military officers were controlling everything. Wanting people to forget about dark reality and his unorthodox power, he engaged people with what later became known as the three S's: screen, sex, and sports. Suddenly, the midnight curfew from Park Chung-hee's era vanished. Previously, being out after midnight had been forbidden. People started staying late at night. Uniforms and standard hairstyles strictly enforced under Park Chung-hee were no longer mandatory. In fact, during Park Chung-hee's time, schools enforced uniform dress codes and identical hairstyles. The police would shave adult men's hair with hair clippers at hand on random streets, claiming to uphold public morals. Women, they were not exempt either. If their skirts were even a centimeter above the knee, the police on a random street would appear and measure how above with a measuring tape and take them to the police station. How does it sound? It sounds crazy, right? All of this seemed to end. In the 1980s, movie theaters were filled with erotic films due to the 3S policies. As for sports, the first professional baseball teams were established. People were enjoying quite different social atmosphere, almost as if spring arrived after the 18-year-long winter following the former dictator's death. However, this spring actually didn't last long. The movie title Spring in Seoul, or December 12th, the day, drew inspiration from that fleeting sensation. Soon, people realized Chun Doo-han was another dictator. Students continued to protest for democratic freedom. Many were arrested, went missing, and even lost their lives under mysterious circumstances. All these upheavals occurred within my several decades of life. Even though history itself acts as a spoiler for historical films, and I knew how the story would unfold, I found myself on edge, tearing up throughout the whole movie. Reality was harsher than the movie. On the night of the coup, when the rebels stormed into a senior general's room of Chun Doo-han, a secretary soldier who was protecting the four-star general was shot by a fellow soldier. A downstairs neighbor in the same residence building who had shared dinner with both families 2 nights prior. An even more heart-wrenching story is when the soldier's wife called the office, concerned about her husband's safety that night. The rebels were busy cleaning her husband's blood from the floor. but falsely reassured her that he was fine. He was fine and on a mission. Even his body without a casket was secretly buried in the hill behind the military bunker. Later, the wife discovered the whole truth, lost her already weak vision in shock. Ultimately was found dead, seemingly having fallen from the railing of her 3-story house. This is not fiction. This was reality that occurred. Another 2-star general who was on the side of suppressing the coup stirred mixed feelings among many. He tried hard to stop the coup and would be dubbed a hero, but he is still controversial. His 20-year-old son went missing after his father's arrest after the failing to prevent the coup and was found dead a year later. A general's personal life was tragic because his father also died after hearing he was demoted from the military. Yet he later collaborated with the military government and assumed an important position. I lived through the 1980s when all this happened. After the movie, I couldn't leave my seat for a little while. It was not only me, many in the audience seated after the movie. The forgotten memory for a long time suddenly became significant. The movie ended, but history continues. Chun Doo-hwan's best friend from the same club became the next president. Some people were frustrated, but they couldn't help it, as Korean citizens voted for him. While Chun Doo-hwan had been in power, he received a lot of bribery and accumulated wealth. 16 years after the coup, Chun Doo-hwan was finally indicted by then the president Park Geun-hye, who was the daughter of the dictator Park Chung-hee. What an historical irony. He was sentenced guilty of 17-year prison term for his involvement in corruption, a coup and Gwangju uprising crackdown under his command, which resulted in numerous citizens' casualties. In the 1980s, a friend of mine, who was a democratic movement activist, also a student, had to flee to Germany. He thought if he were arrested, he would be tortured and his life would be in a dire situation. I've never seen him since. Probably he settled in Germany. The social turbulence influenced many individuals, including me. This is all for today, and thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.